Thank you very much for joining me for this discussion about the Perceptions of Asia survey that's going to be released shortly. I'm just wondering whether any of you found any of the content surprising. You've had a sneak read already. Was there anything in there that sort of leapt up from the page?
For me, I think the thing that's really stood out was the emphasis on people-to-people connection.
I think one of the pleasant surprises in the report is the fact that the more people actually do know about Asia, the more positive they feel.
Well, I think for me, the surprising factor was 2/3 of New Zealanders knew very little to nothing about Asia.
So those 2/3 of New Zealanders that assess themselves as not knowing enough about Asia, what can we be doing as a society to be improving that?
The overwhelming majority of people do understand the importance of Asia, and there's a real willingness there to learn and to connect. I think that the work that the Foundation's done around the importance of language and the importance of the education system being more Asia-focused is incredibly important.
I'd like to see some more strategies around how do we engage cultural change, because cultural change can happen through schools, it can happen through community events, but so much of cultural change happens through parent engagement with children.
82% of New Zealanders felt that cultural and economic ties were very important with Asia, and I feel there's a gap there that the Asian New Zealand Foundation could perhaps focus on in terms of bringing our cultural awareness up to a level where we feel comfortable with engaging with these different global communities.
Yeah. In New Zealand, we talk about export markets so much. It's for a small trading nation. Of course, we're always going to talk about export markets and the importance of Asia for our products and for our nation's future. But markets are social relationships, and you actually can't have markets without building trust and mutual understanding. And there's a whole infrastructure that needs to be built around that for that to actually happen. And for me, I see that's the Foundation's role.
You could pick an issue that the Foundation could dig a little deeper into. What might it be?
Just understanding those different communities, those different ethnicities, and how do we do that? How do we actually, for me, being Māori, having an appreciation for traditions and language and culture, how do we engage and get to know those different communities to help us actually build deeper relations and maintain and enhance these relationships that the government are actually setting up for us.
You guys have read the report, and you know that 75% had recently read media stories about Asia, with Asia content in it, and they recalled that 2/3 of that were negative. I just wondered if you had any thoughts on that and what it might have meant for some of the findings of the survey.
New Zealand media has its own way of telling stories, and perhaps it was unfortunate that that's when the survey was taking place. Perhaps it was a good thing because we can actually capture some of those thoughts that people were thinking at that time and place, and there's never a good time to do a survey, never a bad time as well. So I think if you put that in context, what we can draw from that is that the Asian stories were in the media at least.
I would like to see more in-depth stories about the people and the lives behind the statistics that we see on the surface. Because when you really dig it down, what you realize is people are the same. There are more commonalities and differences between peoples, and I think that's really important. I think media has a role to play to get this message out.
So the survey's been going for almost 20 years, and this year's survey had the lowest ever score. 25% agreed with the statement that Asian people do not mix well with New Zealanders. So that's the lowest level recorded by the survey. Any thoughts and observations you might have as to why that might be so? I mean, that's a really positive statistic in my mind.
Well, there's three main areas that came from the report where we get our our connectedness, our interactions, our engagement. They're from the schools, professional environment, and also our family connections. Because we work most of our lives, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, it actually plays quite an integral part in bringing that awareness to the forefront.
I think that's the most exciting number in the whole report. I would like to see this number diminishing. The result might take 25 years, 20 years to see. And what, I guess for me, the message is really simple. If it's important, and it's worth doing. And if it's worth doing, it's worth doing for a long time.
I'd like to say that I'd like to see New Zealand do it faster, and we're probably going to do it faster than any other country in the world. And that's what excites me, is if we can, if it only takes 20 years to make that change, we're obviously doing the right thing. So let us continue and let us shine to be leaders in the world around integration of different cultures within our space in this part of the world.